Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we're here today with episode number 14 in our incredible new tutorial series where you are learning how to think like an engineer using the Arduino Uno R4 Wi-Fi. What I will need you to do is pour yourself a nice tall glass of ice cold coffee. That would be straight up black coffee, poured over ice, no sugar, no sweeteners, none needed. And as you're pouring your coffee, as always, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Sunfounder. Sunfounder is actually sponsoring this most excellent series of video lessons. And in this class, we will be using the Sunfounder Elite Explorer Kit. Hopefully, most of you guys already have your gear, but if you don't, look down in the description. There is a link over to Amazon. You can hop on over there and pick your kit up. And believe me, your life and my life are going to be a whole lot easier if we are working on identical hardware. But enough of this shameless self-promotion. Let's jump in and talk about what I am going to teach you today. And what I'm going to teach you is I'm going to teach you how to get input from the user using the Arduino serial monitor. Okay, now let's think of one of the things we learned in an earlier lesson. We learned how to set the brightness of the LED. And we did a little project where you put a potentiometer, and by the user turning the potentiometer, you could control the brightness of the LED. Well, what if you didn't want to do it that way? What if you just wanted to ask the user, hey, what brightness do you want? 1 to 10? And he says, okay, an 8. And then you said, okay, you set the brightness then to an 8. You see, you would want to interact with the user through the serial monitor. What if you wanted to build a little calculator where you said, what's your first number? What's your second number? Okay, the first number plus the second number is the answer. You see, you want to be able to interact with the user. Now we've done half of that we've shown how we can print to the serial monitor using the Arduino. We did the serial.begin and then serial.println. So we're talking to the user, but now we need to what? We need to listen. And so that is what I am going to show you today. Now it's really pretty straightforward to do, but there's some things that you really got to pay attention to. And so let's just hop over there and jump in. Okay, so let's just come over here and I'll get my code view. I'll get out of your way and have a sip of coffee. I think I just spilled coffee on my shirt. Can you imagine if I have a big coffee stain for the balance, a big coffee stain for the balance of this class, the balance of these lessons? Hopefully that'll wash out, okay? Doesn't look too bad. Okay, so now let's come up here and let's say that I want to read a number. I want to get a number from the user. Now, the first thing that I'm going to tell you is you have to be very deliberate about what you are getting from the user. If you want an integer, you have to read an integer. If you want a float, you have to read a float. If you want a string, you have to read a string. And so you can't just have a generic input statement. You got to be very specific about what you want. So let's think what's the first thing? Let's just say we just wanted a number, just an integer. And so I'm going to create a variable int, and it's going to be my int. You can call yours whatever you want. I'm not going to put a value there because I am going to be getting that from the user. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here in the void setup and I'm going to turn the serial monitor on. And so I will do a serial.begin 9600. No, what do we need to do? We need to use variables. So I'm going to say BR for baud rate. And then I'm going to come up here and let's set that up BR like that. And I'm going to give it a value. I'm going to say 9600. Okay, now what's nice about that, if I want to change the baud rate, I just go up to the top and anywhere I use that, the code will be updated. So I've done the serial.begin. Now I need to come down here and I need to get the number from the user. What is his number? I need to get that. How do I get input from the user over the serial monitor? I have to do 3 things. I have to ask for it. I have to wait for it, and then I have to read it. So if I just said, give me your number, and I printed, give me your number, and then I read it, I'm going to read it a lot quicker than he's going to be able to type it in. And when I read it, it's not going to be there. Well, I could say, what is your number? And then I could wait 5 seconds and then read it. What if he were a particularly slow individual and it took him 7 seconds, and when I read it, it wasn't there? Okay, well, I wait a minute. Anybody could answer the question in a minute, but then what's the problem then? Our snappier individuals are going to get tired of waiting as you're waiting a minute for the input. So we ask for the input and then we wait. How long do we wait? As long as it takes. If the person answers in 1 second, then we read it. If the person answers in 3.5 minutes, then we read it. We ask and we wait. How long do we wait? As long as it takes. So let's say how we can take that concept and put it into code. Well, I want to ask for it. How would I ask for it? How would I tell them I wanted it? Who is your friend? Serial.print, and I'm going to do a print ln. And then what am I going to print? I'm going to say, what is your number? Like that. Okay? That looks pretty good. So I've asked for it. Don't forget your semicolon. So I've asked for it. Now what do? I wait. How long do I wait? As long as it takes. So I'm going to say while. Okay. Now, you know that serial thing that we're doing serial.begin and serial.print and serial.println. What I can do is I can go out and I can peek at that serial port and I can see if any data is there. I can see if there is any data available. I can see if serial.available has anything in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create something new here, which is a while loop. Okay. And the while loop, I just type while, and it will stay in that loop as long as the condition that are in these parentheses are true. Okay, so I want a while loop. What do I type? While. Now I have to have a condition inside of there, and then I will loop in the while loop as long as that condition is true. I'll come back and put the condition in, but just like if I have a void setup, I have a start and an end to it. What is the start and end? It's the open curly and the close curly. I have a void loop. How do I start it? Open curly. How do I end it? Close curly. Same thing with the while loop. Where does the while loop begin? With an open curly. Oh my goodness, I can't find the open curly. Where is the open curly on the keyboard? Where is the open curly on the keyboard? I haven't done this. I haven't done this in so long. It's above the bracket. Oh, I just had a panic there. Okay, there's the open curly, and there's the closed curly. So while this condition is true, it's going to sit and execute the code between the open and closed curly. Now you got to keep your curlies balanced. So this is the open curly for the while loop, and then this is the closed curly for the while loop. But outside of that, I have an open curly for the void loop and a closed curly for the void loop. So you see they're nested. I've got open and close for the void loop, open and close for the while loop. I could put something inside of there. They're nested, but you've got to keep track of them. You've got to keep track of them, and they have to balance. If you open a curly, you got to close the curly. Okay. Now, what is the condition? Well, while serial.available, okay, open, close, that means while serial.available is there something in there, while that equals 0. So what does that mean? If serial.available does not equal 0, like if serial.available is 1, that means there's something there. If serial.available is 0, that means there's nothing there. And so we are going to sit and loop as long as serial.available is 0. We're going to sit and loop as long as there is no data on the serial monitor. We're going to sit and loop as long as we have to in order to wait for the user to put something in the serial port, okay, into the serial monitor. Does that make sense? Now, why do we say equal equal? Well, if I just say x equal 5, it's going to set x equal to 5. If I say x equal 5, I'm asking the question, does x equal 5? Okay, so I don't want to set serial.available equal to 0. I want to say, is serial.available equal 0? If it is, what do? I loop again. What do I do inside of the loop? Absolutely nothing. I just wait. So I come here. Oh, no data, loop again, check again, oops, no data, loop again, check again, oops, no data, loop again, check again, there's data here. Then serial.available is not 0, serial.available would be there, and then we would drop out of that while loop and we would begin working right here. So this is a do-nothing loop that just sits and loops and loops and loops, waiting for data. So what have we done so far? We've asked for the data. We've read the data. Now we know it's there. We've asked for the data. We've waited, and we've waited, and we've waited, and now it's there. So now what do? We read it. So we ask, we wait, we read. What have we done? We've asked, we've waited. Now what do? We read. Please note, we read after the while loop. We don't read in the while loop. The while loop is just waiting for the data to show up. Okay, how do I get the number? I read it with my int, and that's going to be equal to serial, our friend serial.parse. That means sort of like look at it, get it, analyze it. Serial.parse int, and then open, close, and then like that. Okay, now let's see if we actually got it. So what I'm going to do is a serial.print, and then I'm going to say your number is colon, and I put a space. Why do I put a space? So when it prints, it doesn't jam the number up against that. Okay, and then I put that. All right. And then a serial.println, and then what am I going to put there? I'm going to put my int like that. Okay, now I want you to see one thing up here. Do you notice when I do a void setup, I don't put the semicolon, and when I do a void loop, I don't do a semicolon, and when I do a while loop, a while loop doesn't have a semicolon because that's bunching everything between the open and close together, just like void loop, bunching everything between here and here. So the semicolon you don't use on things that are creating these clauses, okay? These clauses that are inside of the curly brackets. Okay, let's give this a try. Let's see what happens. We're going to hit the old run button, and it's looking pretty good. None of that old ugly orange stuff. It is downloading now. I am waiting for it. Okay, it is done. Now, what do I need to do? I need to open my serial monitor. Okay. Now, why did it not ask me the question? Because when the code was downloaded, the serial monitor wasn't open yet. Okay, so what I can do is I can come over to the Arduino and I can run the code again, press the button, and it says, what is your number? And I am going to say 12. Okay, now you see how I put it in the box. Now I'm going to click enter, and then what does it do? It says your number is 12, and then it asks me again for what my number is. Well, this time my number is 3. Enter. And it says your number is 3. So what have we learned to do? We've learned how to get integer values from the user using the serial monitor. Now I have to show you something very important. And this probably one thing caused the most confusion in my earlier in my earlier class on the Arduino, that class that I did like 3 or 4 years ago. I am sure I said it, but people didn't listen to me. When you are doing these readings like I'm showing you here, you have to have your serial monitor set to no line ending. And let's see what happens if we don't do that. Guys, it is really raining outside. Do you hear that? Look at that. We have a big rain coming in, but I am easily distracted. Let's get back over here. All right. Let's see what happens if I don't say no line ending. Okay. What if I say do a new line? Okay. What is your number? And I say 4. Okay. What does it say? It says your number is 4, and then it says your number is 0. Why? It read the 4, and then it says, hey, there's something there. I'll read it. And what is it? It's that new line, that invisible new line character. It's there, so it reads it, even though it's nothing. What if I said a new line and a carriage return? Okay, what is your number? I'll say 7. Okay, so it says your number is 7, your number is 0, same thing. It got all confused. So what do? No line ending. And like I say, that was the most confusing thing that we had in that last series of classes. Well, I hope that rain noise isn't distracting you, but it is really loud in here. But we're going to power on through. Now let's look at one other thing that could be confusing. What if it says, what is your number? I am reading a what? I am reading an int. Well, what if I said my number is 3.14? Well, what does it do? It reads a 3. It says, hey, I gotcha. I understand the 3. What is this period business? I'm going to just leave because I don't know what that period is. So it reads the 3, it leaves. And then when it comes back around, it finds that 1.4 is still in the buffer. So then it reads the 1.4. So if you are getting an integer from your user, you better make sure that he or she enters it as an integer, because if you ask for an integer and they give you a float, you're going to have all types of different problems. So sometimes sometimes you might even think it might be good to just read it as a float and then convert it to an integer or something like that. But how would we read a float? Let me create a new variable, int my float, like that. Not going to give it a value. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do the same thing again. Now remember, this closes the void loop. Okay, the void loop is closed with this one. Now I want a floating point number. So what do I have to do? Ask, wait, read. So what am I going to do to ask? I'm going to put a blank line there just so I sort of separate that code out. I'm going to do a serial.println and please input a float, like that, space. Who is your friend? Mr. Semicolon. Okay, now I've asked, now what do? I wait. So I say while, open the condition, serial.available, open close. That's not an open close. Open close. While serial.available equals 0. No. While serial.available equals 0. Okay, and you'll get comfortable as this class goes on with that equal, because we're going to find that over and over and over. So now while serial.available equals 0, what do? I open my clause, and then it closed my clause for me. So I have open clause, close clause. What do I do in the clause? Absolutely nothing. I'm just looping. Now I have asked, I've waited. Now what do? I read. And so now I'm going to say my float is equal to serial dot read. Serial dot parse float, like that, and then open close. Okay, just like that. It's very similar to what we did here. Okay, very similar, but instead of parse int, we're doing parse float. And now what I'm going to say is serial.println, and then I'm going, or print, and then I'm going to say your float is colon space semicolon, and then serial dot print ln, because I want it now to go to the next line after this one, and I'll do my float. Who's your friend, Mr. Semicolon? Okay, let's download that. Man, let's look at that rain out there. That is incredible. I hope all the fishermen, that came up out of nowhere. I hope the fishermen got out of the river safely. Okay, let's come back over here. All right, now I'm going to clear this, okay? I'm going to clear it, and then I'm going to start the program again, just so we don't see that old stuff. So this is my integer, and so my integer is 3, and then what is your number? It says, please input a float. Well, maybe I want pi, 3.14, like that, and it says your float is 3. What is your number? What happened there? It says your float is 3. Let's see what happened there. I printed my float. Your float is 3. Okay. What did I do? I said it was a float, but I declared it as an int. Hopefully you guys were yelling at me, okay? Calling it a float here does not make it a float. Calling it a float here makes it a float. So we'll say float. Okay. And now let's see what happens. So we'll download again. Looking good. None of that ugly orange business going on. There it is. Okay. And now it says, what is your number? And we're going to say 3. Okay. And then it says your number is 3. It says, please input a float, 3.14. And boom, 3.14. So I know how to read an integer. I know how to read a float. But what do we also need to know? We need to know how to read a string. So I will show you how to read a string. So we're going to come here and we are going to do this whole thing again. So if I want data from the user, man, we're going to have a flood out there. Okay, so what do? I ask, wait, read. So I'm going to say serial.println. I'm going to ask, what is your name? Question mark, space, like that. What is your name? So now I have asked. Now what do I need to do? I need to wait. So I'll say while my condition serial.available equals 0. While that is true, I do the clause. I open the clause, it closes it. I like to put it on the next line. So I have a what? I have an empty clause. What am I doing? I am waiting. Okay, I am waiting. And then remember, this closes the while. This one closes the void loop. So now my next step would be put here. So I ask, I wait. Now what do? I read. So I'm going to say, let's come up here and declare the variable. Okay, so I'm going to call it an int, and let's make it my name. No. My name is not an int. It is a string, like that. String my name. Okay, so now what am I going to do? I'm going to read my name is equal to serial dot. You might think parse string, and you would be wrong. This one is different. Read string, like that. Uppercase S. Make sure you're getting your case right. Okay, read string, like that. Semicolon. So I've asked, I've wait, I've read. And then I'm going to print what I heard. Serial dot println. What am I going to print? I think, no, I'm going to do a print, not a println. I'm going to say hello, comma, space. Okay. Then a serial dot print, and I'm going to say my name, like that. and then a colon, and then a serial dot println, and then I'm going to print the string. It's going to say, hello, my name, and then it's going to say, welcome to Arduino. And I'm going to put an exclamation there. All right. Okay, now we're going to come over and we're going to remember our semicolon. Okay, like that. Now let's run this and let's see what happens. What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Look at that. I said serial.available, but it's serial.available open close, and I didn't do the open close like that. So let's come in and let's run it now. That was kind of a rookie mistake there. Shouldn't have done that. Okay, so now let's turn the serial monitor on. Okay, now it did that first print while the serial monitor wasn't open, so that's lost out in the ether. So now I've got to start the program again with the button. What is your number? My number is 17. Okay, please input a float, 3.14. Okay. That looks good. What is your name? Paul McWhorter, like that. And then let's see. Hello, Paul McWhorter. Welcome to Arduino. What do you not like? You don't like that the name runs into the welcome. Well, I could print a blank space. I could do another print after my name, after the print my name, or I could just come to this and I could put the space. I could come right here and I could put the space there. Okay, let's try that and see what happens. So looking good, looking good. None of that ugly orangeness. Okay, and then, okay, what is your number? My number is 23. Okay, please input a float, 3.14. Okay, and then what is your name? Paul McWhorter. O-R-T-E-R, like that. Okay. Hello, Paul McWhorter. Welcome to Arduino. Okay, boom. All right, what did you guys learn? What did you guys learn? You guys learned how to read ints, you've learned how to read floats, and you've learned how to read strings. You've also learned the importance of having your serial monitor set to no line ending. And if you do that, now you can get input from the user. So I think what your homework assignment for next week is to get input from the user. What brightness do they want the LED? And then they answer that, and then you set the LED in your circuit to that brightness. Okay, now what you're going to need to do is you are going to need to, I think, and you know, you could say enter a number between 0 and 255. That would be lame. It would be better if you did something like enter a number between 1 and 10, or enter a number between 0 and 10 with 0 being off, doing something like that. And then I also think it would be better if you did that exponential technique that I showed you earlier. And let's see if you guys can figure it out. I kind of showed it to you when you were using the potentiometer, but now let's see if you can do it when you are getting input from the user. So you're going to say, what brightness? They answer the brightness, and then you set the LED to that brightness. You make a video for YouTube. In your description on your video, you link back to this video, and in the comments down below, you link over to your homework solution video so I can hop over there and see how it looks, because I really like to look at your homework solution, because it lets me know whether you're really understanding what I'm saying or if you're just out there kind of wandering through the wilderness. And maybe you get a solution but you're not doing it a very good way, or maybe you figured out a better way to do it than I did. But what I really like to do is I really like to look at your homework assignments. Okay guys, I want to give a big thank you to you guys who are supporting me on Patreon. It is your support and your encouragement that is keeping this great content coming. Also, you can help me by giving me a thumbs up. It also helps if you leave a comment down below. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. When you do, make sure you ring that bell so you get notifications when future lessons drop. And most importantly, share this video with other people, because the world needs more people thinking like an engineer and fewer people sitting around watching silly cat videos. Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.